Right, welcome everybody. My name's Andy Edmond. I'm an equity development, and I have closely followed a business called Kromek for many, many years. Kromek is listed on the AIM. Its ticker is KMK, and it's a specialist in radiation detection and is one of Britain's great success stories in the technology sector. It's had results announced this week and quite a lot of activity in the shares since. So we are delighted that someone who knows the business far better than me, because he was the founder, Dr. Arnab Basu, who is also now the CEO of the business, has taken time out from a busy meeting schedule to give us an update. Great to see you, Arnab.
Great to see you as well, Andy. Good morning.
Yeah. Well, it's been an interesting year, to say the least. And although your full year results actually go back to the end of April, which seems a long time ago, perhaps you can start off by talking about the development of the business, and particularly dealing with the challenges of COVID-19 and what it's meant to you, your order flow, and your clients, and how the situation looks now.
Sure. I mean, let us give us some context. The last fiscal year started very positively. In fact, we entered the year in the strongest position ever entering a fiscal year. Reported a 43% increase in our first half revenue, which we reported in January this year, which was a record first half revenue. And then Q4 we got affected by like many other businesses around the world, by the effects of the pandemic caused by COVID-19. And as a result, some of our orders started to shift. Some of the call-offs schedule that were there started to shift, and the business got affected then. But we put in some mitigation strategies. We ensured our staff health and safety was a priority. We ensured that our workplace we were able to keep it open, deliver services and products to our customers, and operated throughout the pandemic over the period. But there was a period of severe disruption, and as a result, our revenues were year on year down 10%, and we reported a revenue of £13.1 million compared to £14.5 million the year before. But after a period of rather low level of activity, I'm pleased to say that based on customer orders, based on customer call-offs, based on pipelines of orders that we had secured before, we are getting our operational sort of business back up to a normal state. And so in the last 6 to 8 weeks, we have certainly seen the business coming back to a degree of normality. So the board really is looking forward with optimism, but with a degree of caution, because the world is not out of pandemic yet. But given the commercial activity and the operational scale up that we are seeing, certainly we are looking at the world with renewed optimism.
Well, that's good to hear. And just by way of clarity, the disruption that not just you, but obviously your clients have faced, where has that left the order book? I mean, these contracts, have they been cancelled, or are they postponed, and are they reopening now, the ones that you do have live?
So we have got two types of contracts. A lot of them are long-term, multi-year contracts, where particularly with our OEM customers who places like the one which was $58.1 million that we announced in early 2019. Those contracts, none of those contracts have been cancelled. Some of them, the call-offs went back. Some of them were put on hold for a period of time. But I'm pleased to say a lot of them have started to renew again, in terms of giving us clear visibility of what is what needs to be delivered between now and end of this fiscal year. So our customers are gaining confidence, and as a result, we are ramping up our operation to deliver those contracts over the next few months.
Yeah.
There are, of course, other type of orders that we receive, which are much more regular orders, particularly in our civil nuclear markets, and those have maintained its regularity to a certain extent. So, last time we reported that over the last 3 years, we had secured over $100 million of multi-year contracts, and those still remains in the pipeline. Those will be delivered over the coming periods. So, as our customers get more clarity, as they give us more clarity, we'll be starting, and already have started some, to deliver those contracts.
It'll be very interesting to hear more about the core divisions, medical imaging and security. But just in terms of how the business has changed internally, there's been a lot of investment going on through the course of the year, which should presumably leave you in a leaner, fitter, and a more operationally geared situation as these revenues do come through in the future.
Taking everybody back to start of the fiscal year, one of the things that we sort of entered the fiscal year was with a very large project of going through a massive expansion of our capacity to produce cadmium zinc telluride, both in our UK and US factories. So we built a capacity of making the crystals in the UK, which was an increase of 5 times of our existing capacity. So there was a major scale up in cadmium zinc telluride manufacturing in the UK. And also we put a substantial investment in our US plant for automated assembly and manufacturing of detectors of cadmium zinc telluride. So there was a substantial expansion program that ran throughout the year, which puts us as one of the world's largest producers of cadmium zinc telluride. There's only a few handful of those in the world. And those programs, and that particular program, both in the UK and in the US, was very successfully delivered on time, on budget. And we fully productionized both the crystal growth operation in the UK and the detector fabrication and manufacturing processes in the US. And so that operationally, the year was a very successful year from that respect. Towards the end of the fiscal year, when pandemic really came close to home in UK and US, we took a number of mitigation strategies to put in place. First of all, as I mentioned, health and safety of our team members and anybody that is associated with Kromek. We take that very seriously. We put every measure that people could either work from home where possible. So we rolled out the IT infrastructure that was required for efficient working, but we also made our facilities safe, and we do that on a continuous basis, and we continue to do that. We took advantage of some of the government schemes, both in the UK and US, and some of the manufacturing area, which was not operational during the lockdown periods. We utilized a furlough scheme, but we also sadly had to let some people go in the US facility, particularly in manufacturing area. But at the moment, as manufacturing is ramping up, some of those people are coming back. Most of the people in the UK are already back, and we are starting to rehire in the US as well. But we also ensured that we took advantage of whatever way we could from incentive schemes that the various, both UK and the US governments were giving out to bring in funding through those schemes. So yes, you're right. We are, as a result, we are a slightly more leaner, but more efficient organization going forward.
And in terms of cash resources, despite the revenue decline, despite the investment that you've been talking about for the longer term, the results still showed a net cash surplus of nearly £4 million at the end of April. And the comments in the board statement suggested that you were very comfortable that this would be sufficient to see you through the next year and a half in normal circumstances. And clearly there are variables that are outside even your control on that. But you're comfortable on the cash situation.
Yes, I mean we reported a 9.4 million pound gross cash at the end of end of April, and since then we have brought in some further cash from various government schemes. But one of the things that we have to go through is a fairly stress-tested going concern model within the audit process, and that gives a level of comfort to everybody to say that we have been diligent enough to look at our cash position, what the business needs, what the business realities are going forward, and take into various scenarios into account. And so the board feels, on that basis, we all feel comfortable and confident that we have got sufficiency of cash for the moment. So,
I mentioned at the beginning, it's been quite a volatile week for the share price. As people, I think, have absorbed the messages and have looked at them a little more closely, the share price has recovered very, very sharply from a fall at the opening after the results. And I think one of the areas where, again, you can add a little bit of clarity, a large provision has been taken, over 13 million pounds, for a contract in China. But my understanding is that is the terms of delivery and payment. So you actually have the stock still within the group on the balance sheet, and although the provision, I would say, has been wisely taken, so you can move forward with clarity, there must still be a chance that customer is still keen to take delivery of that stock at some point.
Yes, look, we continue to maintain, the first message really to understand is we continue to maintain a very healthy relationship with the customer. The stock exists in our factories, so they are not perishable. They are maintained well. They meet the standards that is required. The provision that we put in was to do with foreseeability of our ability to do two things, and they are quite interrelated. One is to realize payments, which is directly related to our ability to ship, commission, and hand over the products to the customer, which is, in this particular case, is a very important part and element of the contract. So given the current travel restrictions and given our inability to really see when some of those travel restrictions will be lifted and eased, such that our engineers can travel to China, hand over, commission, and at the end of the day provide the warranty provisions that is required for this product. It's the foreseeability of the recovery was difficult to completely prove, and that's why the board took the right decision, that given the current pandemics, it was right to take a full provision against that. But the products exist, the customer relationship is strong, and we believe once we come out of this pandemic and the travel restriction starts to ease, movement of people starts to ease, that we will get back to that.
Great. Well, let's just touch on some of the core divisions now and start with medical imaging. You've already mentioned the considerable $58 million 7-year contract with an OEM. What else is happening in terms of interest in your unique products in applications for imaging?
Look, I mean, we are involved in diagnostic imaging segment of the medical imaging sector, and one of the key things, one of the fundamental drivers of diagnostic imaging is that if you can diagnose something earlier, you have two things. One is a better patient outcome, and the second, more important from a healthcare infrastructure point of view, you reduce the overall cost of care. So, it's a win-win situation if you've got better diagnostics capability. And that is where CZT technology plays a real part in. This technology reduces dose rate to a patient. It can increase the speed of the scan, if you think about in diagnostic areas such as for diagnosis of cancer and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, and many other things like osteoporosis and things. So it is absolutely vital that the core drivers of that market are fully aligned to what our technology brings: better detection, which results in earlier detection, more reliable detection of things like cancer and cardiac diseases and everything else. And that is the core driver. Now, we play in 4 segments within that market, which is bone mineral densitometry, gamma probe, SPECT, and CT. Indeed, SPECT is something where we see a very large opportunity. We have customers in that market. We are shipping products in that market, absolutely, and that continues to grow. And if you look at the SPECT market, that market is going through a generational change, going from the world of black and white SPECT into what we would class as a color SPECT. And that is being led by the market leader, General Electric, or GE. GE, of course, have got their own internal source of CZT. And for the rest of the market, there are only 2 other sources. One of them is Kromek. So strategically, we feel good that as the market transitions from this black and white into colored SPECT, which means from conventional detector into CZT, which is already starting to happen in scale, we will play a prominent part in that, and our business is going to grow in that segment. Similarly, in CT, which is a much larger market, the early innovators are already out with products in niche areas. That is now getting productized into core areas, more conventional CT. Now, photon counting CT is one of the holy grails of diagnostic imaging, and CZT is the enabling technology within that. So again, our ability to make CZT, our demonstrable capability of having capacity buildup within our factories, so we have scaled up the process, will only add to the confidence in the market for us to be a reliable, good quality, and high quality supplier in those markets. So the growth opportunities within those markets are substantial for us, and the growth drivers within those markets are very well aligned to what we do.
Yeah, it's a huge market potential, and following the common theme of detection, a different sort of threat, but moving on to nuclear security. And again, contracts seem to be coming through and accruing from governments to look for and identify dirty bombs, etc., etc.
Look, radiation detection is a part of every critical infrastructure and border protection infrastructure throughout the world. What we developed with DARPA was a unique value proposition of a series of instruments, which in DARPA's own words, when we made instruments, which we developed our D3S platform, which brought the world from replacing instruments which are size of a shoebox, cost tens of thousands of dollars, to wearable detectors, which cost a few $1,000s. So what we bring is a capability in that market, which is better at detection, more cost effective, and ultimately it actually, the user experience of those instruments are much better. You can put it in your pocket rather than having a big box to carry around. Much easier to use. You don't need scientifically trained people to do radiation detection. So these products are now protecting major infrastructures around the world and are being used in major areas. I mean, if you look at, this is the backbone that you're being used by New Jersey Port Authority in protecting critical infrastructures in New York City. That was the transition that happened from the big DARPA project we worked on into an operationalizing of that. We are in 22 countries. It's closer to home than we realize, and some of those programs are getting expanded. We have won contracts from European Commission. The use model of these products are being expanded. These are being used from military to border security forces to train protection to many other areas of usage. What we have seen in the last few months is a real sort of coming out of a lot of procurement activities in this market. And the markets are substantial. Over the next 5 to 10 years, we are looking at hundreds of millions of dollars of opportunity in this market. And we have a unique product range. We have a unique value proposition, and we bring capabilities into this market, which is really, really required. Wearable detectors, high level of spectroscopy, capability of real good identification ability. And that's what the market needs. That's what we provide at the most cost-effective manner. And that's why we believe the growth potential in this market is huge for us.
And lastly, but certainly not least, in terms of threats against humanity, your release also gave an update on the work that DARPA has commissioned you to do in terms of pathogen detection. And the world has had a very timely reminder that bacteria and virus remain the constant threat against human life. How do you see the development of the trialing of that product in coming months, and when might it become commercially important for you?
Look, this has been a project that has been running in Kromek since beginning of 2019, late 2018, when, as a result of a very successful delivery of our radiation detection program with DARPA, and building up a credibility and track record with DARPA, we were awarded a very early contract at that point to develop a unique pathogen detection system that the capability doesn't exist in the world. We were chosen to bring together a consortium of partners in the UK that we brought together, whereby we are developing a system which would be capable of sampling air, and in a completely automated manner provide the full pathogenic signature of that air. So whether it's pollen content, bacteria content, viral content, and known novel or something that is mutating. Once this technology is fully developed, this is a unique platform and one of its kind in the world, which is able to do that. And why it's important, of course, over the last 18 months, while we were developing the product and the technology platform, the world, of course, experienced the effect of the COVID-19 related pandemic. Now, track and trace is going to be an important element going forward, and a capability like that, where you can have a system which is able to sample air and provide the pathogenic content, is going to be a vital tool against not only coming out of this pandemic and the exit strategies that will be associated with pandemic, but also to prevent any future pandemics. Now, I don't say that lightly. In the last 20 years, the world has brushed with 2 or 3 near misses. If you look at in the last 20 years, we have had SARS, we have had MERS, and we have had Ebola. Any one of them could have turned into what COVID-19 turned into. So it is important to realize that going forward, countries' infrastructures will have to build resilience and monitoring systems, which ultimately would be able to give early warning for any such things to happen, then have the ability to confine those in small areas such that it doesn't spread around the world and have the havoc that it has created, that COVID-19 has created in us. The world can't afford that. So what we are doing with DARPA will be trialed, and we'll have the first prototype towards the end of this year. And we have got a series of trials planned in between January and through to May, June. And of course, we are engaging with a number of interested parties and trying to understand the use model of how this unique capability can really aid to operational and monitoring systems in various different scenarios, whether it's in transportation, whether it's in critical infrastructure, whether it's in sporting venues or confined spaces or the aviation industry. I mean, just to give an example, if this was there in fully developed and was in planes, those first days where people were unknowingly traveling from areas of contamination into other countries or other areas and transmitting, could have been prevented. And because you would have known that there was an unknown virus inside the plane within 45 minutes to an hour, and you could have taken a mitigation strategy that could have probably prevented this pandemic. And so DARPA's work and sort of aims are unique, and the capabilities unique, and the technology will be disruptive in nature, and will provide hopefully a useful tool going forward globally.
In these unprecedented times, Kromek's revolutionary biological threat detection system technology has never been more vital to global public health, national security, and the economy. Being developed by Kromek for DARPA in the USA, it is an all-in-one, always-on monitoring system continuously reading the full DNA or RNA sequences of microbes collected from the air or other sources. The fully automated, continuous process runs autonomously, identifying all known, novel, and emerging threats. The small, standalone system samples a large amount of air, condensing its biological materials into a single droplet of water. It purifies and processes the DNA or RNA before sequencing it using a lab-on-a-chip solution. No laboratory facilities are needed. All processing and identification is done at the point of collection, and results are delivered for adjudication to your computer or tablet within an hour. The system provides the earliest warning of both existing and novel pathogens. Localized monitoring enables a detailed understanding of the spread of disease, and the sequencing data provides an understanding of any genetic mutations over time. If you would like more information on how Kromek can help you, please contact bio@kromek.com.
Lastly, perhaps you just would like to summarize, Arnab, on what you see as the news flow, the development and the outlook for the group in months ahead.
Look, Kromek, like many other businesses, has been affected by the pandemic. Disruption over 5-6 months has really affected the business both operationally and commercially. But at the end of what we are seeing today is that our customers are returning. The pipeline of orders that we secured over the last 3 years, those will be delivered, and those are starting to be delivered. Our production is ramping up. We have built in the world's largest capacity of CZT production, which is a vital sort of infrastructure that we have got. We have unique value propositions in the nucleus sector. We have real products and technology for the medical sector. And with the new capability that we are developing in the biosecurity area, based on all of that, the board feels really optimistic about the future. Business is getting back to normalcy over the last 3 to 4 weeks to a couple of months. So we are getting that sense that operationally we are getting back to normal. Commercially, we are getting back to normal pre-COVID days. And ultimately, we are looking forward optimistically. Here's the takeaway message. COVID has done a lot of disruption, but it hasn't cured cancer. Neither has it taken away terrorism. And those are the areas where our products, technologies are critical.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Arnab. We appreciate the time and wish you all the best of luck. A lot of products for all of us to develop there. I would encourage people to look at the Kromek website, where there's a lot of material, a lot of videos that are very interesting. And in terms of objective analysis of what Kromek is doing, there is a recent note from Equity Development on our website that is one in a long line of analysis of the business. So thank you again, Arnab, and good luck.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.